Okay, so it appears that the Sonic community is arguing once again. This time it's about Update 3 for Sonic Frontiers, otherwise known as the Final Horizon update. Now, I dropped my video a few days ago talking about how I feel about the update, and my overall thoughts were that it was kind of mediocre. I wasn't the biggest fan of the update. I felt like they added a bit too much, and in some areas, it was a bit too unfair to the player in terms of difficulty. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, then you probably already know my thoughts, but in case you don't, I recommend watching that video first, because in this video, I'm going to be responding to some comments I got on that video. I've noticed all over Twitter and in my comment sections and other comment sections that the Sonic community has been battling over this update. There's been a lot of arguing over the quality of it, whether it's good, whether it's unfair, whether it's bad, mediocre, etc. So I thought it was necessary for me to make another video on this talking about the most debated topics. Because there's a lot of topics that are being brought up consistently with this conversation that I really want to touch on. So what I did is I compiled a bunch of comments from my previous video that either disagreed with me or want to further a discussion, and I'm going to be responding to those comments with my perspective and my arguments. So again, if you haven't watched the previous video, I recommend you go watch that so that you know my viewpoints. Either way, we're going to be getting into this, and I'm going to be responding to some of the arguments that I see the most in regards to this update. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button as hard as you can, and hit the bell as well. Anyways, let's begin. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about, and this is like the most overused argument I have seen with this entire update: skill issue. I have gotten so many comments that just says skill issue, and I really want to respond to this because I see it all over Twitter, I see it all over other creators' videos. People always respond with skill issue. If we don't like this update, suddenly it's a skill issue, and it's so stupid. I've heard those words so much that, like, why? Anybody can just say skill issue. If somebody is criticizing Update 3, you can just say skill issue and bam, you're free. So obviously, as the argument suggests, skill issue means that we're too bad at the game to actually enjoy the update for what it is. And that... no, that's not the case. When it comes to me going through the second trial or the fifth trial or any other challenging aspect of the update, yes, that is by definition a skill issue. Technically, I'm not good enough to beat the second trial on my first try. Technically, I'm not good enough to beat the fifth trial on my first try. So yes, that is a skill issue because technically speaking, I can get better and start beating those trials a lot easier. However, that does not mean that it's fairly designed. Just because you can get better at a game does not mean it's not unbalanced or unfair. And in my opinion, that's exactly what Sonic Frontiers Update 3 is. You have Trial 1, 3, and 4, which are extremely easy, and then you have Trial 2, which isn't even the final trial, and it's like really hard and difficult. Who balances a game like this? Not only that, but the time limit is so strict that you actually have to abuse a mechanic to beat the trial. And sure, I've heard some people say that they've actually beaten it by side looping it instead of parrying, and congrats, alright? You put in a lot of work for that. Congratulations. But most of us had to keep parrying and abusing that mechanic because it's stupid. And when you use the parry technique, in all fairness, Trial 2 is pretty easy. You just have to keep punching, parry, keep punching, parry, keep punching, parry, and that's literally it. But that's kind of stupid. Like, you're not even utilizing your full moveset on that. You're not even doing anything that's really that skillful. You're abusing a mechanic just to beat Trial 2. And that's my biggest problem, is that it feels so unfair that it almost forces the player to look up a tutorial or abuse a mechanic to win, and I don't think that should be the case. I always think back to a game like Metroid Dread. I brought up this example before, but like, in that game, you have to utilize every single part of your moveset and arsenal to actually beat the bosses in that game. And when you beat it, it feels fair because you had to use everything. You had to use all of your skill to beat it. But in Sonic Frontiers, I'm just abusing one mechanic, and it's the same way for Trial 5. I just abuse the stomp. I just keep spamming stomp, and then all the titans are gone. I honestly don't feel like I became any much better of a player after beating Trial 5 or Trial 2. I just abused a mechanic, and in reality, the way I won those boss fights feel just as cheap as how they were designed. So that's my thoughts on that. Anyways, let's move on. You are just showing the bad sides of the playable characters. For example, if you complete the skill tree of every character, then it becomes a lot of fun. A lot. But since you didn't say these, you are either a classic Sonic tuber and dislike everything that comes out, or you just didn't do those. If you continue doing these type of hates, you will hurt the franchise's future. Okay, so there's a lot to tackle here. Let's start off with the playable characters. I didn't talk about all of the skill trees because I didn't feel like it was necessary, because my opinion doesn't change. I've upgraded the skill trees, I've had my fun with it. I even went back and played the game again to play with the playable characters even more. And yes, Tails' tornado feature is really cool, but unfortunately, I just don't really care that much about it. Like, it is cool and it is fun to mess around with, and yeah, you can cheese a lot of platforming with the tornado, but in my opinion, hasn't really changed about Tails. And that's just how I feel about both playable characters being Tails and Knuckles. Like, they're okay. I just feel like they're a bit underwhelming. Amy, on the other hand, I love Amy. I think her playable character is great. And this is something I kind of failed to recognize in the previous video. It's that I don't hate the playable characters. I should have talked more about this, but I do think the playable characters are a positive addition to Sonic Frontiers. I do think they're underwhelming. I do think they should have been handled better, but I don't think they are bad additions. I like that Tails, Knuckles, and Amy are now in the game. That's extra content for free, and I'm okay with that. And I even said this in the video, the playable characters are the best part of this update besides the ending. And I still stand by that. I like the playable characters, and it's the one thing that brought me back to this update after I played it. So I like the playable characters. I think they were positive additions. I just feel like they could have been done better, and that's it. Now, the second part is interesting because I always want to respond to this because I get this comment a lot, but I've never had the right opportunity to talk about this. The classic Sonic tuber hates everything he plays. Here's the thing, I don't hate Sonic games, and I don't hate the Sonic franchise, and I'm not purposely hating on Update 3 to get views or for some kind of gain. You guys have seen my channel. I am mostly positive about Sonic. I liked Sonic Frontiers, I liked Sonic Origins, and I even liked Sonic Colors Ultimate. So the whole hate Sonic thing is not true. I do not purposely hate Sonic for any reason at all. Simply put, my viewpoints are my viewpoints. You don't have to agree with them. I don't have to agree with yours. We can have a discussion. We don't have to be enemies. Just because I don't like Update 3 doesn't mean there's like an ulterior motive behind my viewpoint. I just simply thought it was mid. And trust me, I lose more by talking bad about Sonic than if I was to talk good. Without going too much into detail, if I praised every Sonic product that I got my hands on and all that, I could probably have a lot more connections. There would probably be a lot more people who are willing to speak with me, who are willing to work with me. But here's the thing about me. I don't give a f*** about connections. I don't care about who I make mad with my videos. I don't care who I make upset. I'm going to say my viewpoints, and what I say is going to be what I say. So when I upload a video that's negative on Sonic, I know I'm gonna make people mad. I don't want to make people mad because I want everyone to be happy. I want to be friends with everyone. But I'm not going to shield or change my opinion so that the general public of Sonic fans can enjoy my content. I don't care if you like Update 3, but don't make me like Update 3. And also, for the final bit, I'm not hurting the Sonic franchise. There's plenty of people who like Update 3. There's plenty of people who are sharing opposite opinions. This has always been a thing. I am not hurting Sonic by putting out a negative video. And also, if Sonic Team changes the next game all because Matthasnocuts made a video that was negative, then, you know, that's their own fault for being so easily swayed by a YouTuber's opinion, especially when there's so many other content creators sharing the opposite. Anyways, I feel like I said enough, so let's move on to the next one. I'm not gonna read the whole comment because it's a long one, but at the end, Boblax asks, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the new cyberspace levels and mini-bosses? Personally, I'm disappointed by how weak in combat the new characters are. Makes me want to avoid all the new Guardian fights. The cyberspace levels are really cool though. Okay, so I got a lot of comments about cyberspace. A lot of people wanted to know my thoughts on cyberspace, and since I didn't talk about it in the last video, I might as well talk about it here. Cyberspace kinda sucks, but I love it. I know that sounds kind of stupid, but just hear me out. I didn't mention cyberspace in my previous video because I was still forming my opinion on it. It was such a weird thing. And I only played like 2 cyberspace stages at the time, and one of them was trash, and one of them was like overly experimental. The level that sucked was this very open-ended level where Sonic's flying everywhere and there's like a million different pathways. I didn't even know what I was doing. I couldn't even find the ending to the level. There was just so many pathways. It's like whoever designed that level had so many ideas and he couldn't choose any of them, so he just chose all of them. But the weird thing about the level is that while it sucks, like this level is terrible, I kind of like it because it's experimenting. I was actually able to spin dash through a loop without dash panels, and that was insane, dude. The level did suck, like again, it does suck, but I loved using momentum in that level. And this is a common theme with all the levels in cyberspace. It seems like Morio Kishimoto is really doubling down on momentum, and that's what I love to see. Granted, it doesn't always stick. A lot of things he did with these levels are not great, but it was cool to see this being experimented on, because as you guys know, I love momentum. I want momentum in the next Sonic game, and Morio Kishimoto is in there. He's experimenting and trying new stuff. The other level I played was this like rocket level, and it was kind of bad as well, but it was really experimental, and I kind of liked it despite the weird and convoluted design. It's kind of weird. It's like cyberspace is not designed very well, but I don't want to criticize it either because I'm kind of enjoying it. Like the Tails race level, like that level is so weirdly structured. Like there's so many objects that you kind of just like don't interact well with, but I like the idea of racing Tails again, and it's actually a fun and challenging level. And most importantly, it keeps using momentum. All these levels use momentum. Every one of these levels were built with the spin dash in mind. And that gives me so much hope for the future, because it tells me that Morio Kishimoto is learning how to do momentum-based level design. And while it doesn't always stick the landing, I love that he's trying, and sometimes you get that feeling of like, wow, I'm actually using momentum in a 3D Sonic game. It puts chills down my spine. So what's my opinion on cyberspace? I think it's pretty bad, but I'm not gonna knock the update for it, all right? That's a fun little experiment that I'll allow, because, you know, they're using momentum. I kind of enjoy that. See, I'm not always negative. I can allow some positivity. As for the mini bosses, I think Bo Black said it here perfectly. Like, I like how they're designed. I like the new mini bosses, but the new playable characters do not do well against them. Since they're really under-leveled and they don't have the moveset that Sonic does, it's just really hard to fight them. So that's kind of disappointing. I kind of wish I could use Knuckles to fight these mini bosses, but it's just too much of a hassle. But when you're playing as Sonic, these mini bosses are fantastic. So I'll consider that a half of a W, otherwise known as a V. The problem with the criticism of not being able to homing attack as Tails is the fact that Tails couldn't homing attack in any of the older 3D games either. What? Neither could Knuckles or Amy. Those two could not homing attack either, so well, why is Tails different? I just don't understand why he doesn't have a homing attack like Knuckles and Amy does. It feels like a no-brainer that Tails should. That's what's really annoying about his playable character. I just want to homing attack things to, you know, speed up the pace, but he can't homing attack. But thank you for that comment, because I do know that some people are not bothered by Tails not having a homing attack, and if that's you, more power to you. I really don't think you did yourself any favors doing this in one sitting. This update is a gauntlet at points, and you really need to take your time with it. Yes, it can be frustrating, but extremely rewarding too. Okay, so I do want to respond to this because a lot of people brought this up, and I feel like it's a fair observation to make. I did play this entire update in one sitting, and I can see why people are concerned about that. And you know, maybe you're right. Maybe if I did play it in multiple sittings, my opinion would have been different. But what I'll say to that is that Sonic Frontiers, when I first played that game, I was able to do like 3 sittings and play through that entire game, and I had a blast. Same thing with games like Metroid Dread, which was really challenging for me. I had a blast with those games, and even sitting down for 6 hours, that didn't change my experience. But with Update 3, I did not like the one sitting playthrough that I did. So, you know, it's impossible for me to prove that one sitting changed my viewpoint or not. It might have. I'm not gonna deny that. However, I just don't think it did. If it was a good update, in my opinion, I feel like I would have liked it in my first sitting. But I understand your concern, so thank you for this comment. You actually don't have to spin dash up that slope. So what this person is referring to is a part in my previous video where I talked about a weird platforming segment where one of my friends couldn't get up it because they didn't know to spin dash up it. Now, you might be right. You might not have to spin dash up that part. I know a lot of people just like ran up the ramp and jumped to the other parts, but that doesn't change how weird it is. And that's the thing. I don't think climbing the towers are that challenging. I just think they're weird. Like, who designed this platforming? This part specifically, like, what was the point in this? Like, Sonic has to jump on ramps? Why is he walking on ramps? Why? Whose idea was this? Even worse, like, earlier on in the tower, you had to, like, side loop around these dash panels, and it wasn't challenging. It was just really tedious, annoying, and dumb. Like, somebody developing this game has a sick sense of humor, and that's spread throughout the rest of the update. There's so much weird platforming challenges that are not fun. And I also don't like a lot of the puzzles, and I am a puzzle man, alright? I love puzzles. But in this update, the puzzles just weren't that fun. Like, there was this one puzzle where you had to move the statues, and I'm like, wow, this is boring. And then I played another puzzle where you have to move more statues, and I was like, wow, this is also boring. And look, I love puzzles. Puzzle solving is one of the best things to ever come out of gaming. If Tears of the Kingdom or Portal 2 didn't exist, I don't know what I'd do with my life. Those games are so freaking good. When it comes to Sonic, I don't think he should have super complex puzzles like this, because not only are they not fun, but I just don't feel like they fit Sonic's gameplay. If you're gonna have a puzzle in a Sonic game, make it super simple. And I'm not saying that because skill issue, I'm saying that because Sonic's supposed to be on the go, not solving puzzles, you know? So yeah, you're probably right. You probably don't have to spin dash up that slope, but why did they make it a slope in the first place? Why are you jumping on sideways ramps? Why? Sonic fans, Frontiers is 7 out of 10. This easy as Update 3, Sonic fans. Screw this game. It's way too hard. 0 out of 10. When will Sonic get a good game? First of all, nice way to sum up everyone's opinions on that. That's a real funny way to do it. And second of all, I've been seeing this around a lot. It's like, wow, the Sonic fans asked for challenge, and now they're getting challenge. Why are they upset? We want fair challenge. We want challenge where it makes us feel like we're getting better as players. The challenge that was present in Trial 2 and 5, that was not fair challenge. An analogy I would give for this is like, say someone is hungry, they're asking for food, so you just drop a bleeding cow on his desk and say, bottoms up, eat. Yeah, I'm hungry. I didn't ask for a cow. That's kind of how I feel about this argument. Like, yeah, Sonic fans asked for a more challenging game, but we didn't ask for a unfair challenging game. You want another analogy that is more Sonic-like? Imagine after Sonic Lost World, we got Sonic Forces, but then you had Sonic fans telling you, what are you mad about? We got the boost formula. It's back. Why are you upset? It's because the boost formula sucked. And that's the thing, it's not black and white, there are nuances to this. You can't just say you asked for challenge, so here's challenge despite it being incredibly unfair. We want challenge, and we want good challenge. I feel like that should go without saying, but maybe we should specify that more often. Sonic team, we want a challenging Sonic game, but just don't make it unfair. Work on ways to make it more balanced so that we don't have to resort to cheap actions to actually beat the bosses. Taking away checkpoints, making a stricter time limit, stuff like that, that's not authentic challenge. Make a challenge that requires the player to use every single ability in Sonic's moveset. That's what I want, and that's what I hope you do. Anyways, that's all I have to say for today's video. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell. I'll see you guys very soon. I'm gonna be uploading quite a few times in October, so get ready for that. I love you guys. I'll see you very soon. Peace out. My chill members are Snack Pigeon, Neil, Scully, AHS, Francis T218, Sonic Man 715, 3 Monic, ArchXYZ, Pie Studios, Bananas, Junion Rings, Chip Chap Chop, The Squeaker Nerd, Super Shags Boom, and Super Saiyan Sonic. Thank you all for supporting my channel. Make sure to click one of the in-card screen videos here. Love you guys. Peace out.